The only thing I verified was, there was a conversation, and the way I left it off was they'd have to come to New York before the conversation could be advanced. There's no advancement of it until I meet with him and his people and talk to him and see where he's at and work with him in the gym and see whether or not he wanted to work with me, quite frankly, and if I want to work with him. Learn something about each other and show them what I had in mind for the trek that we would take. So it would have been a couple days in New York to go through those things. And they were going to call me, and the call never came. So if they had called back, I did like any person that considers themselves a professional, and is prepared. Part of being a pro is preparation. Have a plan. So before he was even going to come here, when they called me back, I had figured out what I would do with him. I had put together probably about 8 pages of just the things that I felt he needed to work on, and I would have to work on with him to correct from a technical standpoint. What my philosophy would be, what my objective would be, what my plan would be, what I would expect from him. So I wrote it all out. I wrote out all the corrections, the things I thought he needed to correct as a fighter in the ring, because it wasn't just about weight. It was also about teaching. It was also about improving in certain areas. That's we all make a big deal about, rightfully so, but about him going up to 283 pounds, whatever it was, when he fought the rematch with Joshua. People make mistakes. He made a mistake. All right. And he went up, he was too heavy. And we blamed everything on that. But we forgot that he had a loss early in his career against Joseph Parker where he wasn't 283 pounds. Why did he lose that fight? So I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at that too. And so there's room for improvement in certain areas. Otherwise, why the hell you need me? If you only need me for weight loss, call Jenny Craig. No, I mean, I'm being really, because
I know.
I'm in a serious business, Ken. And part of it, so for me, I wrote up these pages and I put it together. And if they call me, I'm not sophisticated with this stuff. So I was going to say, okay, give me your email. I will go to my charity foundation office and ask my very important person down there that runs my foundation to scan it. I heard of that. You scan things. That I heard of. Scan it and then email it to them so they could at least get an idea of what I had in mind before we took it to the next stage. And that phone call never came. So now that it doesn't, and you brought up the suggestion, can we look at that? And at first I thought, no, because it would be wrong. I just thought it would be wrong. But then I thought about it, and I thought of, it's not wrong if you're not doing it for the wrong reason. I decided that on this show, since they never called us, I never gave a chance to give the papers to them, I'm going to release the papers. I'm going to show them. Rob's going to, he's going to film them, obviously, and we're going to show them. And the reason why I'm doing it, there's 2 reasons. So they could see it. So even though I'm not going to work with them probably, at least if it could help them this much, it could help this much, I'm good. I'm good for that. You don't have to get paid to get help, to give help. It doesn't always have to be connected to that. So if it could help him, I think he's a lost kid in some ways. I think he's a good kid. I think that there's something special in him to be able to win the world title the way he did it. So if this could help him just a little bit, this will be my way of giving it to him instead of giving it to him in a private way that I would have.
Yeah.
And it helps our show. It's interesting to our audience that the audience can just see what goes into when you're a trainer, you're a teacher. That's really at the core of what you do. You teach. You try to improve. And it gives me, in my mind, a chance for the audience, our audience, which I'm grateful to see how we think, to see what boxing's about. That's not just about going in there and throwing punches till the guy goes down. And I know our audience knows that already. But just to show them what else it's about, where the thinking starts with a trainer, what he's thinking about when he's getting ready to commit himself to another fighter. What goes into it? What's the thought process? What's the goal? And this gives me us a chance to share that with the audience, to let them be aware of some things they might not have been aware of before in this business. I think I don't know, do you agree?
Can we talk a little bit about what's in the papers?
If you're dependent on your body to make a living, right, Ken?
Yeah.
Which fighters do, right? You're dependent on your body to make a living. And you're coming in at a weight that compromises your chance to do that. There's something wrong. It's a lack of discipline and maybe an addiction to food. Okay, so if you're going to change that, you got to change the environment. You got to change the way of thinking. It's much more than just me being with him for 2 weeks. It's much more than that.
Yeah.
For me, with the potential of working with Ruiz, it's if you're compromising yourself by coming into weight, okay, we could blame it on lack of discipline, but there has to be a psychological component to it too, Ken, where you're under a lot of pressure. Getting in that ring is a tough thing. And maybe you're setting up an excuse in a way that you're not even aware of, in a subconscious way. Because 75% of boxing and being successful, and in anything, is mental. You have guys out there that were just as good athletically as Michael Jordan. Yeah, I know Michael Jordan was a beast. I know it. But there were guys that were just as good, if not better than him athletically, but not mentally. And a lot of those guys never made it. A lot of those guys are still on the streets.
Yep.
What I'm saying is he didn't ever give himself an excuse to lose. All I'm saying is that when you're in this kind of waters that we're talking about, what I'm talking about, it gets tough. It gets deep. It gets murky. You got to understand it. And you have to explore it. You have to be aware of it. Otherwise, you ain't going to get better. So, to me, Ruiz coming in the way he did, at the most important part, yeah, it was because he made money. I get it. Yeah, because he wanted to eat and lack of discipline. But he was heavy before that, too. There's more to it. You got to find out what it is. There's more to it. That's what I'm talking about. And that's why I'm not quick to say yes to a fighter, because there is a lot involved. I want to see if I'm going to have cooperation with believing in what I believe and going down that road.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be in a situation where you're undermining yourself, where you're giving yourself, again, not consciously, but subconsciously, you're giving yourself a reason to lose. You're giving yourself a reason to lose where if you lose, it's tough to lose because people can point a finger. You aren't good enough. You suck. It's tough. It's tough. You're naked out there. You're vulnerable out there. But now you have to do, maybe if he was in better shape, he would have won. Oh, so maybe he's better than the other guy. But he just wasn't in as good a shape. But if he was, he would have beat the guy. So it saves you. It protects you. it gives you an excuse. It gives you cover. If we're going to be the best in the world or whatever we do, we can't have cover. We can't have cover. Cover is just an alias for excuse. So those are the things when you ask about the papers, and jokingly we could make a joke and say, remember that movie? We're talking so much about these papers now, my God. Remember that movie, the Valachi papers? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Joseph Valachi, first person to testify before Congress about the existence of the mafia and break the omerta and code of silence.
Yeah. Again, you ask what it's about. Those things. It's also about how you can become better technically, the things you need to work on technically to be the best fighter that I thought he could be. The funny thing was he lost to, and this is what's in the papers, he lost to Joshua in the rematch, and everyone blamed it on the weight. But then getting ready for the possibility of working with him, I did my work. I looked at tape. So I looked at the tape of the fight against
Parker
that he lost. Guess what? Other than the weight, you might as well be looking at the same fight. Parker fought on the outside. Joshua fought on the outside. Parker boxed. Joshua boxed. Parker used his legs. Joshua used his legs. And guess what? Ruiz, who was lighter in the Parker fight, much lighter, he didn't know how to cut the ring down. He didn't use the jab to get in enough. When he got in, he didn't stay in there. He was one-dimensional in his approach. I mean, all the things that he did to lose the Parker fight, he did the same things to lose the Joshua fight. But everyone said, oh, it's because of the weight. I'm going to say that even if he came in lighter after what I saw doing my work, doing my research, which is what I'm supposed to do, I would say that he still would have lost the fight. And nothing to do with the weight. Because of what he didn't know technically how to deal with a guy boxing in the way that he was. On the outside. So those things are addressed in the Valachi papers. Ruiz papers.